We are inching closer to the 2020 NFL season. Kevin Bowen back, another edition of Kevin's Corner. We'll go two this week on the old corner. Chris Presley across the way, early on a Tuesday morning, very early. Sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to do this to you, but
it's all good, man.
I guess actually I did mean to do this to you, or else we'd be recording at a different time. But that's how things roll right now. Again, a week away from training camp. Honestly, less than 24 hours away from the Colts rookies reporting for camp.
Yeah.
And they are now descending upon the city of Indianapolis. And I don't know if deadlines spur action, Chris, but I feel like we're some positive momentum towards players reporting on time. Camp might not look anywhere near what we're used to it looking like, but still things, you know, you have to use all the words that, you know, in COVID life. Things are fluid, but things are moving, I think, in a positive direction.
Yeah, some interesting news out of the NFL and the NFLPA this week. Your thoughts on those?
Yeah, let me pull up the I want to make sure that I have it right. Last night, we're taping this again early Tuesday morning, of the memo sent to the NFL about what training camp will look like for teams. Again, July 28th is the report day for the Colts. What we're used to training camp is this. July 28th is report day. July 29th, you are on the field practicing football.
Yeah.
Now, the first 2 days of camp are usually like spring, like kind of no pads, more of an acclimation period, running around, but you're still doing some stuff. That's not going to happen, it sounds like, here in 2020. Basically, it's going to be day one, COVID testing. So you're going to get tested right then and there. Day 2 and day 3, you will not be tested, but you will be off-site. So think of remote meetings will be how things will operate. And then day 4, you will get tested again. At that point, I think what you're trying to do is decide, okay, who has it? Who needs to isolate? Who needs to quarantine? And then day 5 begins the daily COVID testing, and that will be for 2 straight weeks, it sounds like. Players can begin entering the facility on day 5.
Okay.
So when you hear all this is why I was such a big advocate for getting these players in the damn building a lot earlier, because you're wasting 5 days. Wasting is probably not the right term, but you're setting yourself back, and training camp is not going to look the same. And we've seen all this kind of acclimation period of the NFLPA wanting no preseason games, a strength and conditioning component to start camp. And I understand it. I get it. But what all this means is training camp's going to look a whole lot different. And I don't think we'll get into serious 11-on-11 work really until, maybe mid-August?
Yeah.
That might be a little bit too far, but I mean, if you go 7 to 10 days of strength conditioning, that's already like August 8th or something like that. And then you're going to have a bit of a spring period where you do some individual stuff, you do those things, and then obviously eventually you will get into the 11-on-11 and a full padded action. But I will be out there at camp. I've made the cut for one of the media people. Unlike my 7th grade basketball team, I've actually made this cut. So we'll see what it looks like, though. You know, am I going to be watching people strength and condition? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if players can't be in the building until day 5, I don't envision myself being out there very early on in camp. So the daily recaps will look different. At some point, we will get there, but I guess what I'm getting at is don't expect them very, very early. I am curious to see what happens with, it was kind of floated around, of 2 fan events at NFL stadiums during camp. We saw yesterday the Giants and Jets saying no fans at all at MetLife Stadium this year. So, you know, how does that impact those things around the league? There are still a couple more hurdles to clear, but things are moving in a good direction here with at least camp starting on time.
What's your media availability going to look like? Do you know that yet? I've seen like some of the MLB players when they're doing interviews, at least for certain teams, it looks like some of them are still taking them via Zoom.
Yeah, it will be all virtual. So even if we're there, it will not be Frank Reich under a tent and us standing 6 feet away. It won't even be that. Basically what it'll look like is this, and there's still, again, a couple of hurdles to clear on if we need to be tested on a daily basis, you know, what happens if they go indoors versus outdoors, those sorts of things. Basically, the gist of it is this. We'd wear a mask the entire 3 hours of practice. In the back end zone, obviously extremely far away from players, not even able to stand within 6 feet of your media cohort.
Yeah.
So for Mike Wells, who just wants to talk golf for 3 hours, that's not going to be good for him. What else? Virtual. I mean, basically, whenever Frank Reich's media availability will be, or Phillip Rivers or Naeem Hines or insert player, that will be us, driving home in our cars. Do we get home? Do we go to a local Starbucks and do them? It will not be on site. Usually the Colts have a media workroom, which is great. It's very easy to access, and that's kind of the office away from the actual office.
Yeah.
So that's how training camp will be for us, and I assume, honestly, that might be how the season is. I would expect we're still able to come and just take practice attendance like you normally would be, but I don't expect it all to be out there at the facility for 3-4 hours, like I usually am during the regular season. Three or 4 days a week, really. So, again, very fluid. We'll see how all this changes, but I just wanted to give people a little bit of info as we are technically 7 days away from the start of training camp.
And as we approach training camp, something that you normally do on an annual basis on 1075thefan.com is write an article talking about Indispensable Colts for the season this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit over the years. When you use the phrase indispensable, first off, I think it's I think it's one of the bigger words that I use all year, so I'm always happy to kind of throw that in there. But I think when you look at this list, Chris, I don't know if you had an initial skepticism on it. I know a couple of people chirped on me on Twitter about it. So go ahead and dive into it. You throw the first name at me, and I'm curious. I guess we will get through the list of all 5 names, and this is a 1 through 5 ranking, in my opinion. But I have a feeling some people will have a little bit of pushback.
Well, your number 1 was Anthony Costanzo, which I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I just think he plays a position that has the most drop-off from starter to backup. And this sounds like something I said last year, and it remains true. LaRaven Clark is still your backup at left tackle. And I think Anthony Costanzo showed last year that he's almost ascending as a player, which I know we talked about this in March when he was re-signed. What a huge freaking deal that was. Not like huge as in years and value, huge as in you're getting one of your most important players, in my opinion, your most important player back. Because if you don't have Costanzo, there's the trickle-down effect of now your quarterback's exposed. Now your run game is susceptible to maybe not being in a top 5 unit like you need them to be. So I think he is he's the most important player on this team. I don't care if he's turning 32 here in a few weeks.
And that completely changes your draft, too.
Completely.
I mean,
And arguably the whole offseason.
Yeah.
Do you trade away the 13th overall pick?
True.
Maybe Chris Ballard does because he thinks the next guy on this list is probably equally as important, but still, it just allowed you to not only cross off such an important priority, checkpoint, if you will, for the offseason, but then it allowed you to say, okay, here you go, DeForest Buckner. Here you go, Phillip Rivers. Now you can do some other things like they ended up doing.
Yeah, you hinted at it with the 13th pick there. Number 2 on your list, DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, and this is a little different than Costanzo to me, Chris. It isn't because you have this massive worry about defensive line depth. I actually think the defensive line group might be the deepest on the team. You could argue running back, I think, but I think defensive line has some great depth. To me, it's this. Buckner is thought to be an all-pro talent, and he plays the most important position on your defense. That's why he's this high on the list. Chris Ballard did not hold back last year with his actions and his words in describing the poor play they had at defensive tackle. I think back to the Bill Polian quote that we talked about a few weeks ago on the pod of him saying, look, we weren't a Super Bowl team until we got Booger McFarland. I mean, I don't care if what Peyton put up in 2003 and 2004 and 2005. We needed that sort of player in the 3 technique in this Tampa 2 defense to truly feel like we were at that level to play winning football in the month of January consistently, week in and week out. And DeForest Buckner, honestly, he's a whole different player than Booger McFarland. And hopefully he's a whole different announcer if he ever decides to go down that route. But still, I just think Buckner he means this much.
Yeah.
Because there's a domino effect as well to him about what your linebackers look like and what your pass rush in turn means the pressure on your secondary and those sorts of things. So when Chris Ballard talks about building through the trenches, I had to start with a couple trench guys.
Well, and you got some pretty good running backs in this division that guy can stop.
Exactly. That's a great point as well.
Moving to number 3, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, some people would have quarterback a lot higher on this list. I think in past years, we've probably had quarterback a lot higher on this list. And I understand it. Like quarterback means a lot. I think there is a bit of a drop-off from Phillip Rivers to Jacoby Brissett. I also think the Colts have a pretty deep quarterback stable compared to most in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like Rivers and Brissett started 30 games and the 4th-round pick and Jacob Eason. I mean, they're a lot worse quarterback situations, again, purely from a depth standpoint than what the Colts have here in 2020. So I just think that I think there is a drop-off from Rivers to Brissett, but I can make the argument that Anthony Costanzo is worth 2 or 3 wins. You can make the argument that DeForest Buckner is worth 2 or 3 wins, and I also think Phillip Rivers is worth that as well. So, these guys are close on this list, but I just think that when you're talking from a, ability standpoint, what you're getting out of the quarterback, Rivers, to me, just still has to prove a little bit before I'm like, okay, without a doubt, he's, whatever, the 10th best quarterback in the NFL or whatever label you want to throw on him.
Number 4 on your list is the guy that will be snapping the ball to him, Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, and I've got 2 offensive linemen in the top 4 here. Maybe not the 2 that many people would have expected to have, but why I put Kelly here is this, Chris. The position means that much in Frank Reich's offense. He does not shy away from putting a lot of pressure and putting a lot of responsibility on the center's plate. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason Ryan Kelly was a top 20 pick. That was in the Ryan Grigson era. Ryan Grigson and that regime thought very highly of Ryan Kelly, and this regime thinks very highly. Frank Reich went to Chris Ballard very early on in the process and was like, we need Ryan Kelly to be a stud.
Yep.
Like point blank period. We need Ryan Kelly to be a stud for us. There's a lot of pass protection stuff. There's a lot of just, I think, being the quarterback of that unit. I know that's very coach speak, but I think there's a lot of validity to that with Kelly. Now, there's still a bit of a drop-off from Kelly to the backup center. Is it as drastic as LaRaven Clark? One might argue it might be more drastic. Your backup center on this football team right now, I'm guessing Javon Patterson, 7th-round pick last year who tore his ACL in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
There's been talk of Danny Pintner probably trying to do that at some point in the NFL. But, again, this is a tight end turned right tackle in college who snapped a few balls at his pro day.
Right.
And people are now, thinking he can be a center with obviously minimal offseason work. So I also probably put 2 offensive linemen on this list, Chris, because if you're going to make me say the units with the most pressure on them in 2020, I'm putting the offensive line on there.
Mm-hmm.
They have a ton of pressure, and it goes back to the whole domino thing. If they underperform, all of a sudden, your quarterback can't move, and your run game that you need to lean on and continue to be that workhorse for you, now all of a sudden that could be an average rushing attack in the league. So those are the reasons why I put a couple offensive linemen on here.
Rounding out your list at number 5 was Darius Leonard.
Maniac action.
You're the only one giving him respect, apparently.
Yeah, how about that?
Jeez.
You see that Madden rating?
Yep.
This was a toss-up for me between Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore. I wanted one more defensive player in here, and the reason I gave Leonard the nod is he's just around the ball a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
He just has that playmaking element, which Kenny Moore has a playmaking element, but Kenny's is oftentimes a great tackle in space, a pressure on a third down that causes a throwaway. It may be not as tangible as Leonard literally taking the ball away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I put Darius on here. I mean, no one in NFL history at that position has created the amount of playmaking that he's done through the first 2 seasons. So I know last year the Colts were like 2-1, I think, in the games that Leonard missed. But still, I just think that while I like Bobby Okereke and I like Anthony Walker, they still don't go and get the football like Leonard does. So that's why I have him 5th on this list.
So in this article, you do clarify some things here with the thoughts section, and there's some guys that are on the side of the building hanging up on the banners that you left off.
Yeah. What'd you think? You think I should put Nelson on there? Think I should put T.Y. on there? Or Kenny Moore? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Initially, I was a bit shocked that Nelson was not on there, but as you walk through this and talk us through it, I can see where you're coming from.
You know, Nelson's the best player on this football team.
Yeah.
Best player on this football team. There's no argument with that, in my opinion. But he plays guard. And while the Colts don't have these ready-made guards necessarily as a backup, you can get by with a patchwork guard. I don't think you can do that at left tackle. I don't think you can do that at center. Without Nelson, is your run game as potent? No. Is your pass protection as solid? No. But in my opinion, when we're talking indispensable, guys you can't afford to lose, to me, losing Costanzo for 10 games, Kelly for 10 games, that would be more jarring to this football team than losing Nelson. And it really all comes down to the position that he plays. It's just that guard to me. And I know interior pressure has taken a rise in the NFL and things like that. But the nice thing is, like, if you lost Nelson, Kelly can help a little bit. Costanzo can pinch down and help a little bit. I mean, he's close, very close. Obviously, I don't want to act like he's not a worthy player, but I just don't think his position carries the same impact.
What's the receiving core look like, though, without T.Y.?
That's fair. Very fair. I guess I come down to this. With T.Y. and last year, I feel like he's got something to prove this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not the same bona fide top 10 wideout in this league. So there's an age question. There's an injury question with him. It's just not the same Hilton as, leading the league in receiving like he did in whatever year that was, 2016, I think. I get it. That wideout group is definitely barren from a prove-it standpoint without Hilton. I also think you have the run game to lean on. I also have faith in Frank Reich to be able to scheme up some things. Now, last year, did it look very pretty without Hilton? No. But I have a little bit more faith in a Rivers-Reich chess match here way to victory more so than just purely losing Hilton.
That's fair.
But, yeah, I mean, again, fair debate. I had some pushback, mostly I think in the Nelson camp from people yesterday on social media when I posted that. But I thought we'd get into a little debate here on the pod.
I think it's awesome that a offensive lineman is someone that so many people back for this Indianapolis Colts team.
Yeah, or like you could legitimately put 3 offensive linemen on this list.
Yeah.
Like if I would have taken off, I don't know, Leonard and put on Nelson, yeah, some people might have, had a little bit of pushback, but still, I mean, that's the point to where you've gotten. And if I were making this a 8-person list, Nelson probably would have been 6 or something like that. It also comes down to the point of just what the offensive line means to this football team.
Mm-hmm.
It means so freaking much. When you aren't elite at quarterback, you aren't necessarily elite at wideout, your O-line carries a heavy, heavy burden. So that's why you're putting these guys as high up as I did.
A lot of Twitter questions this week, Kevin.
We got tons.
A lot of Twitter questions, and robust. I mean, all sorts of different topics.
This will probably be one of our longer Twitter question segments, maybe in the history of the show, to be honest with you. And that's not hyperbole. But week before camp, we got to get to them.
Got to. First one's from Tyler. You get one of these Colts to come back in their prime. Who are you taking, Vontae Davis or Dallas Clark? Also, do either stand to be in the Colts Ring of Honor?
Oh, boy. Well, first with the second one, I think I have a better chance of being in the Ring of Honor than Vontae Davis. I mean, yeah. Now, Clark, a chance at it. And we screwed up a Ring of Honor question last week. I want to make sure that we eventually get to it.
We will, yeah.
I don't know. Is Clark like the next guy from that era? I mean, Clark, he's not in it, right?
He's not in. But last week
like,
when you said that, like, it did jar. Like, you almost forget over time how good certain players were and how consistent they were.
Right.
And I think that is the key word for Dallas Clark, is he was so consistent.
He was, and that's a great way to put it. And you get into the Tarek Glenn, Bob Sanders debate with that. Now, I will say this. You get one of these Colts to come back in their prime. I'm taking Vontae Davis.
Are you?
And that's going to be surprising to you, I think, and to a lot of people. But Vontae Davis's prime, to be fair, was about one season. The 2014 year, where he was the best corner in football and was on an island week after week and was the reason why this team won in Denver in the divisional round of that playoffs and got to the AFC title game. Vontae Davis was a flat-out stud. So I think a shutdown corner means more to me than a tight end.
Okay.
And I know that might be not the way to go in a Frank Reich coach team, but if we're talking prime, we are not talking 5 years, 10 years, because Dallas Clark, you're taking him 100 times out of 100 because Vontae Davis had some volatility to him as a player that was the reason why he didn't last here very long, or didn't last in Miami.
Or Buffalo.
Very long. Buffalo as well. Yeah, Buffalo didn't even last,
a full game.
Full game, yeah. But, again, we're talking prime. Give me the shutdown corner in today's NFL. So, that might, I don't know, people might disagree with that strongly. But if I can bank on that prime being multiple seasons, give it to me.
Tim wants to know, do you see the Colts keeping Jacob Eason on the 53-man roster or risk losing him to put him on the practice squad?
No, 53, Tim. Yeah, you can't risk him. You know, he's a fourth-round pick. Teams are gonna. I know he fell, and 31 teams passed on him. The old adage, but still, I'm not putting him on the practice squad and risking that.
Question from Cash Considerations. Love some of these names. Could the Colts be buyers come trade deadline time?
Whoa.
If so, are they looking for? Sorry. If so, are they looking for to round out this team to contend? They may be available via a tanking team. I imagine we'd have a great first half of the year for Ballard to part with picks for a win-now trade. And I botched that completely, and I'm sorry.
No, it's barely even 8 a.m. right now. Wow, I can't believe we're talking trade deadline. I mean, full transparency, I haven't even looked there yet. Like, let's just get the season started, to be honest with you. You know, it's something that I feel like in the NFL, you really got to see the season unfold. You know, we've talked buyers, sellers in the past few years. I remember Vontae Davis was a big seller for me a few years ago. I always come back to this, Chris. Are you giving up a draft pick?
Yeah.
That's what you have to do to get someone in the trade deadline, which the trade deadline in the NFL is never very active. And I'm not. I'm not. Maybe if you start 5-2, 6-1, and you have like a big injury at left tackle, and you feel like you're a team positioned for a playoff run, maybe then you would do something. But no, as of July 21st, shit. Let's just put on pads once and play a 60-minute game before we start talking trade deadline. But when your name's Cash Considerations, I guess
true.
You can see where the question comes from.
Mike in Portland, Oregon wants to know, if there is no season this year, do the players' contracts still count towards the years served on the contract? If so, is that a good thing? For example, Quentin Nelson's contract is up, but he has one less year of wear and tear on the body. Yeah,
that's a really good question, Mike. It's something I think we're going to need to see agreed upon with the NFLPA and the NFL here. I mean, I think those are kind of one of the final cross T's, dot I's sort of thing. Do these players get paid? What happens with the guarantees? Does Philip Rivers 1 year, $25 million get rolled over to next year? You know, all of those questions that you have. Okay, if you're going to hold Big Q back from a contract, does that mean all those other guys are free agents? Like, is Hooker now a free agent?
Yeah.
Is River, like, if I'm reading that correctly. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on it's a very good question, but that's something that I think we would have to be agreed on. I tend to think the contracts just freeze and you just go to next year. I mean, if guys aren't working, yes, there's some sort of guarantee, and I know that's a big labor dispute, but, like, how can you pay them?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, literally, if they're not working.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Great. Mike, they're going to do everything they can to play 16 games. Everything. It's the NFL.
Jordan's question this week. So with the Next Pick miniseries on YouTube, after we moved up for Jonathan Taylor, Ballard asked, who do we want to get with number 75? And one of our scouts says another Taylor. Do you think this could be referencing actually another Taylor that they were high on other than Blackman?
Oh, no, Jordan. I think this is in reference to another Jonathan Taylor type of player, like another stud, another star, another high character, blue trait, whatever you want to call it. I don't think this is in reference to, Jonathan Taylor Thomas or whatever. I don't. Yeah, I think this is just typically another type of elite player that we really like, and we want to be a horseshoe guy. All of that. I can't imagine that the video editing department, let alone the people that sign off on that video, would have allowed that to have gone through.
Sticking with Taylor, Nick wants to know how many touches can we expect our new brute, Mr. Taylor, to receive on a game-to-game basis? Is our O-line top 3 in the league? And over or under 10 to 11 wins doesn't seem too far-fetched, no?
Okay, so a couple ones here from old Nick. Taylor, how many touches? Early on, boy, it's a good question. I can't see him playing a lot of third down. So I think when you say touches, I think we mostly mean carries with him. 12-ish early on. Some people might say it's a little high. Is it Mac going to be, especially with the shortened offseason, no preseason games potentially? Will it be Mac 18 out of the gate and Taylor getting 8 out of the gate, something like that? I would like to see that a little bit closer just because, again, if you're going to draft a running back where you draft them, throw him in there. And Jonathan Taylor's coming from Wisconsin. He ain't coming from, spread offense. O-line top 3 in the league. Oh, boy, I think it needs to be. Probably fair, but that's I mean, top 3 is high praise. And yeah, I think double-digit wins should be the expectation. I think that's where you kind of throw the barometer.
I agree. Question from Ty. Kevin loves the podcast. Is there any chance Big Q moves over to left tackle to replace Costanzo when he retires? Would think we want the best player at the most important positions, but not sure if a move like that makes sense.
Yeah, Ty, I mean, like, it sounds good on paper, but that's just not how things work. Quentin Nelson, I don't think he ever played left tackle at Notre Dame. I think he was always a guard there. So, yes, I understand the whole best player at the best position, but your footwork at left tackle is a little bit different than your footwork at left guard. So, yeah, that will not be happening. There is zero chance of that happening. But we get some form of this question every week of, like, trying to replace Anthony Costanzo moving forward. I don't think it'll ever be Braden Smith. I don't think it'll ever be Quentin Nelson. You're just going to have to draft a left tackle.
Yep. That
works out. Similar to how you drafted Anthony Costanzo. That worked out. Or you drafted Tarek Glenn. That worked out. And hopefully you don't draft Tony Hugo. Like, that's that, or Ben Ijalana. Like, that's like where you're at as a franchise. And if you move one guy, now all of a sudden you worry about that position. And you're still worried about the guy that you move definitely being the same type of player out there. So I love people thinking outside the box, but no, that ain't happening.
Outside of Rivers and Eason, which veteran rookie relationship are you most curious to watch this year? Could be from any angle: personality meshes and clashes, long-term team impact, chemistry, etc. And that's from Stan.
Our guy Stan always asks great questions. Well, Rivers Eason definitely on that list. What about Malik Hooker and Julian Blackman? And what about Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor? I first think to the early draft picks and the veterans above them. How does that dichotomy work, if you will? I love the way T.Y. Hilton works, so I think him and Michael Pittman, even though they aren't the same skill set, like body types, obviously, I like that. Some of the Colts feel like Xavier Rhodes has some Mike Mitchell in him, which is high praise. They raved about Mike Mitchell and just the amount of professionalism he brought on a daily basis. Well, what happens if Xavier Rhodes all of a sudden isn't starting? Does that impact that professionalism? Does that impact how willing he is maybe to say, come here, Marvell Tell. Oh, wait, you're taking my playing time. It's just, there's a human element to it all. I'm not like ripping Xavier Rhodes for that. Sure, I'd like everyone to be a great professional, but I get it. You're a former first-round pick. You've started every game you've played in the NFL. That's weird. Certainly DeForest Buckner. I feel like I'm naming everybody. But Buckner, considering his pedigree as a leader and as a work ethic guy with that young defensive line, all of them. Pentner, with those veterans on the O-line. So, yeah. Stan, Hooker, Blackman, Mac, Taylor would be atop the list. But still, there are a lot of other ones in there.
Steven wants to know, what's your favorite sports memorabilia item that you own?
Oh, my. I got a Tiger autograph. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Thanks to my brother. My dad got me John Wooden's autograph once.
Okay.
Pyramid of Success, that big wooden thing. Yep. All right, this is going to sound creepy, and I please don't arrest me for this or anything, but I was a 7th grader, maybe an 8th grader, I think 7th, and I got Greg Oden and Mike Conley's autograph at a Lawrence North Carmel High School football game.
I got a Greg Oden and Mike Conley autograph on the back of like their 3 or 4-peat state championship shirt.
Okay, so at least at that point, they're about to go into college.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was a little creepy, really weird. This is pretty much how it went down. So I grew up in Carmel, went to Carmel Public School. So, Friday night, you're going to the Carmel football game, blah,
always.
blah, blah,
Yep.
and you're hanging out there and whatnot. So all of a sudden, this extremely large human being comes over to the Carmel side. And my buddy Zach Rosenberg was like, dude, I think that's that guy that they keep on talking about, like the next Shaq or whatever.
Yeah.
Greg Oden's just coming over to buy ice cream, from the home sideline. And sure enough, I'm like, all right, I'm going back over there. And for some reason, now that I think about it, I was planning this, I guess, to a degree. I had a mini, like one of those very mini Ohio State football helmets with me. And at this point, I guess they'd already committed.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I don't
In
know if that
7th,
makes
so
sense.
how old were they?
They were probably freshmen, maybe sophomores. They didn't commit that early.
I don't think they committed that early.
Man, I'm look that up. When did Greg Oden and Mike Conley commit? Because I'm almost positive that I got that autograph at that time then. But anyways, I go back over and I sit a little bit above the Lawrence North student section, and no one really knew Conley that well at the time. But I thought that would be my in to get Oden.
Yeah.
Like if I recognized Conley, maybe that would help with Greg. And I got both guys' autographs.
May 2nd, 2005 is what the quick Google search.
2005, and they graduated in 2006. So yeah, that I don't know why I would have had that Ohio State mini helmet, but that was definitely then. So yeah, I think I got their autograph on a Krabby Bill T-shirt, which is like a restaurant in Florida. So yeah, that's super weird. Greg Oden obviously, unfortunately, did not pan out. That's a long answer to Twitter questions this week, but yeah, it's what I got.
It is funny looking back when I look back at the shirt because I have it framed. I'm like, who would have ever thought that Mike Conley's autograph would be worth more than Greg Oden's?
Infinitely more. Yeah, man, you just feel bad for Greg, and yeah, he's had a lot of battles in his life since then.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, well, I'm glad to know that I wasn't the weird. Well, I was weird. I'm not gonna deny that I still am weird, but yeah, I got issues, man.
We got a Texas Colt fan question this week. How many of this year's starters would start on the prime Manning era teams?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
really good. Nelson, Buckner, Leonard, Kenny Moore. I mean, Costanzo, if it's not Tarek Glenn out there, I mean, I think, he's better than Charlie Johnson, or I'm trying to think who else played left tackle. I mean, hell, Costanzo started in Manning's last year, 2011. Granted, that's not prime Manning era teams. Maybe Justin Houston. Hilton, for sure. Three wide set, even with Marvin and Reggie. Maybe on Doyle, maybe on Anthony Walker. I feel like the linebackers for the Colts were never really like studs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyone else I'm forgetting? Maybe Hooker.
No, I think you nailed it.
A lot of those trench guys. They always had a good running back. It's hard to say Marlon Mack. I mean, you went from edge to a die to, damn, Dominic Rhodes should have been MVP of that Super Bowl. So, yeah. It's a great question.
Question from Brazil. This is from Carlos.
Carlos, what's up, man?
Says, what's up, Kevin? A fan from Brazil. How many Colts players do you think are top 10 at their position?
So kind of a similar one.
Yeah.
Here from Carlos. Obviously, I'll echo the same ones I just said. Costanzo, Nelson, Kelly, Buckner, Leonard, Kenny Moore. Probably Houston. You consider Marlon Mack a top 10 running back?
I consider him a top 10 surprise at the position, if that makes sense.
Okay. So no.
I mean, a couple podcasts ago, reading through those list of running backs that are coming up on deals, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Okay. Top 10 running backs in yards last year. Okay. Derrick Henry better. Nick Chubb better. McCaffrey better. Ezekiel Elliott better. Chris Carson, debatable. Leonard Fournette, I mean, pure talent. You'd probably say better. Dalvin Cook better. Joe Mixon better. Josh Jacobs better. Saquon better. Sony Michel better. Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean that's probably 10. That's close.
Yeah,
I'd say he's right there though. Maybe Doyle. Top 10 tight end. I don't know, 9, 10, something around there.
Yeah, that's one. Going back to fantasy football that we talked about a couple weeks ago. That's one of the positions that goes quick in terms of like from tier 1 to tier 2. The drop off is just so drastic.
Yeah, and it's like with Doyle, it was hard with Ebron of like. He might not be considered a top 10 fantasy tight end, but like as a pure tight end, his blocking and his consistency as a receiver, you put him out there. Certainly Rigoberto,
Yep.
Sanchez, and Luke Rhodes for what it's worth. I mean, hey, how many podcasts do you get the long snapper thrown in there? They are definitely top 10 players.
We've had some good ones.
Yeah, some great ones.
Question from Nathan this week. Let's say Hilton has another injury-filled season and Pittman goes on to play himself into a 1,000-yard season and a Pro Bowl while Campbell and Pascal have solid seasons themselves. Do we re-sign Hilton or let him walk?
Nathan, let me start with this. If Michael Pittman has a 1,000-yard season and is a Pro Bowler, dude, rookies just don't do that. Yeah. They just don't. I think I talked about it a few podcasts ago. I want to say A.J. Brown is the only wideout in the NFL over the last 3 years to have 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Yeah.
Before that was Michael Thomas. Look at Michael Thomas now. So if Michael Pittman achieves that, build the statue now. Under that scenario, it's probably a walk. I'd probably let Hilton walk. But I honestly feel like that sort of scenario almost has to happen for me to sit here and be like, Hilton's definitely a walk.
Exactly.
Which that seems very far-fetched to me. Now, I don't know, maybe it does. But you really need all of those things to happen. Hilton injury-filled season. Pittman all of a sudden looking like oh my gosh, he's our number one guy in November. And Campbell and Pascal take these nice jumps, and probably Campbell more so than Pascal. I'm not in the camp of let T.Y. Hilton walk. I'm not in that camp. So I want to make that abundantly clear. But I also can look in the mirror and realize we could be in a cap situation next year around the NFL that's a little awkward. So it's a good little scenario, Nathan, as much as I might want to disagree with it.
So from Nathan to our guy Nathaniel, he wants to know, do you agree or disagree with the Madden Colts ratings?
Okay. I don't have them in front of me, Chris. Maybe you do. I don't. Leonard was the one that jumped out at me. Was there anything else that I should be worried about? 85, right? Was Leonard?
A lot of 85. So Costanzo, Houston, Kelly, Leonard, and Mack all received 85 ratings.
I mean, like, are you telling me that Darius Leonard and Justin Houston both deserve an 85? This isn't longevity in the league. This is how effective were they. Leonard 85 is LOL. Like, what? Has he been chirping about it on Twitter? He's got to be.
He was not happy.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, hell, he's told me that I didn't bleed blue last season. I hope he's getting on other people for that.
But that's why, just referencing back to the beginning of the podcast, like, can we get one poll or one rating or one something that Darius Leonard's respected on?
It seems to happen a lot to him, doesn't it?
Every single time.
Yeah.
And that ship is just getting bigger and bigger on the shoulder.
And he holds back. Did you see the quote I had in the story earlier this week from Leonard about the Colts last year? Okay. So I kind of dove in, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, and this is kind of the big mantra I have coming into the season about it's time for the Colts to prove themselves without Andrew Luck. You know, Chris Ballard says it'll never be about one guy. Well, you're 11-21 without Andrew Luck. Like, it's hard to get away from that quote. Leonard said this: for a team to not make the playoffs, you are considered a sorry team. There's no sugarcoating it. You sucked. Last year we sucked, and we got to make sure we don't feel that feeling again. We have to grind, and we have to do everything we can to make the playoffs. If we don't make the playoffs, it's a bust for you. You suck if you don't make the playoffs.
I love that.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
That is leadership right there like none other. Unbelievable quote. But it goes back to the just general Darius Leonard, I've got a boulder on my shoulder type of mindset that he plays with. So, man. What was do you have Buckner Madden rating on there?
Buckner and T.Y. were 87, which Reggie Wayne loved.
Anybody higher? Nelson.
Quentin Nelson, 94.
I mean, shit, Nelson should be higher than that. Was it was Mahomes and Donald, the only 99s? Did I see that right?
I think Michael Thomas also received a 99 rating.
Really?
Which a lot of people, they were saying, like, Julio Jones is better than Thomas, you know?
Maybe they only watched the Saints-Colts film from last year. Yeah, Madden ratings. It's been a while since I played Madden, but, man, if this quarantine continues, I might hopefully my wife's not listening, but it might be time for a game system.
From Bratzu, why wouldn't...
Can you imagine I've got this 6-week newborn, and I'm like, yeah, babe, I just bought an Xbox.
You can't tell her that.
No. No, that'd be, oof, boy, dad of the year.
Yeah.
Couldn't be further from that.
From Bratzu, why wouldn't the Colts spend remaining cap on high-quality depth? Moves could pay off beyond even this year, for example, signing Clowney to a one-year, $16 million deal. You have the tag rights and less waive to sign. Even if he leaves, it's likely a third-round compensation pick. If cap goes down next year, picks are more valuable.
Is it likely a third-round pick? I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, Seattle's not getting a comp pick for him this year. Remember, that comp period ends at some point during the offseason. So if teams are hesitant on him this year, why wouldn't they be hesitant on him next year when it's much more of a tight cap? So again, we get some form of this question every week. I just don't think it's that black and white on Clowney. Now, you can do physicals. Maybe that changes a little bit on him coming off the open market. But they just I don't think they have the cap space right now to do the $16 million. They have like 21, 22. And again, you want the in-season stuff and you want a little bit of carryover, I think, as well. So I can't see them doing that. My argument all along would have been, probably to cut ties with the old $21 million cap hit on Jacoby. That's the route I would have taken. I get it. Some people don't want that or wouldn't have done that. They'd rather have more of a secure backup. But I'm all about if Rivers gets hurt, all right, start the next era.
An interesting question from Steven. Would you rather fight one Quentin Nelson-sized Kenny Moore or 100 Kenny Moore-sized Quentin Nelsons?
One Quentin Nelson-sized Kenny Moore or 100 Kenny Moore-sized Quentin. One.
You have to go one.
I mean, think about it. If I fight off the first 62 Kenny Moore-sized Quentin Nelsons, number 63 is just going to break me, engulf me.
You think you get through 62?
I mean, if I get through 6, number 7, with one, you hope you kick him in the shin. You hope you just.
It just takes one lucky shot.
Yeah. Hope maybe in the, region. I don't. Neither. No, I'm losing.
Mike's question this week: 2-on-2 basketball. Kevin and Joey Molinaro versus Chris and Cheeks.
Oh,
how does it play out and who wins?
How about Cheeks not having the gumption to be in here this early in the morning?
I know.
That right there isn't a good look for you and on this team, Chris. What are your thoughts, Joey and I versus you and Cheeks?
How are you at basketball? Are you like an outside guy?
Yeah, which for being 6'3", I should play more inside, but you grow up in the state of Indiana, you should be able to hit an open jump shot, and that's what I can do.
I got a little Kevin Pittsnoggle in my
Oh
game.
my gosh, what a name. I love that. Well, we might lose 21-0. You guys are Pittsnoggle and Gansey.
When I'm on, I'm on. But like you said, Indiana, like we're running 3-point line to 3-point line.
Yeah, we really are. I played intramural, or there's an alumni league at my older brother-in-law's high school, and they needed me for a game this year, and I guarded Shaq. I mean, this dude was 6'7", 300, and that was my job, just have Shaq sweat on me all game, and boy, I think I took an ice bath till the sun went down. I would say Joey and I get it done. I mean, Cheeks is short, for those that don't know. What's Cheeks listed at?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I'll be generous and say 5'7".
That's generous.
I mean,
that's generous.
That's my guy, so
yeah.
I can't.
I mean, Darren Sproles would post up Cheeks.
He might be crafty.
Yeah, he might be. Okay, moving on.
Question this week from Tanner: which scenario is more likely to happen in 2020? Rivers is the most productive quarterback in the AFC South, or Rivers is the least productive quarterback in the AFC South in terms of overall efficiency, total yards, and touchdowns?
It's a good question. Interesting question. I look at it like this right now, Chris. If I'm ranking the AFC South quarterbacks, Watson is 1. Based off last year, you got to put Tannehill 2. And then Rivers 3, although that's very close. It's almost interchangeable, I think, to a lot of people. And then whoever the hell starts at Jacksonville at 4. So if you go off that, well, if Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew strikes gold, or whoever their starter is going to be, theoretically he'd only have to move one spot down to achieve the worst or the least productive AFC South quarterback. I don't know. I don't think it's at either end of the spectrum. I think it's just very middle of the pack, and I know that's a cop-out answer that Tanner didn't give me. I just can't see him jumping Watson.
I don't either.
I can't, under no way can I. Injury would be the only way that I see him jumping Watson. So, yeah, Tanner, that's a really good one, man. Really good one.
Another good one from Jason. Assuming the Colts are prepared to let Hooker walk at the end of the season, do they A, play him as much as possible this season to allow Blackman to heal and drive up his compensatory
pick, trust me.
Pick, or
it's hard for me
B,
to say it.
Start working in Blackman when he's ready to prepare for the future?
Oh, no. I mean, you are trying to win. Win, period. No, it's no this isn't 2018 where you're openly admitting we're playing the young guys and John Simon isn't good enough for us, but he's good enough for a Super Bowl winner. Yeah, no way. And I get why you want to play Blackman, but I'm not putting him out there until he's full go and ready to impact.
Absolutely.
I mean, Hooker is still better than decent football player. So, you were trying. This rebuild has hit some road bumps, and you've missed the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. I mean, if you go 5 out of 6, that's like Indianapolis Colts of our fathers. I mean, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever it takes to win. That sounds like a high school football shirt, but yeah, it's that.
More likely to emerge this season, Lewis or Banigou? And that's from Greg.
Tyquan Lewis or Ben Banigou? It's whoever can become a rundown defensive end, in my mind. Because I think when you get to third down, I think it's going to be Justin Houston and Kamoko Turi at ends. Now, maybe you get creative and Banigou can slide in there and you do something, a little bit different. But still, I think it's who can become a better rundown defensive end for you. And as of right now, I would say Lewis over Banigou, just because I've seen Lewis do it. Now, I've also seen him be benched and the staff not be obsessed with him. So it's not like, I don't say I have a whole lot of confidence, but at least I've seen a little bit more from Lewis than I have from Banigou. But that's another good one, Greg.
Randy wants to know, what's the early read on how this reduced revenue season will have on the salary cap for next year, and how do you see that impacting the Colts in free agency?
Do I say great question too often? Do I compliment people too much?
No, I mean, we get a lot of really good questions.
I genuinely mean that. I do. I don't just throw that out there to be like, But I was about to say something I shouldn't have, so I'm going to move on. Great question, Randy. How spread out is that cap situation? That's my question for you, Chris and Randy and our listeners. Are you able to spread it out over 5 years? How big of a hit will it take in 2021?
Yeah.
Because we know the reality for the Colts. You got 11 or 12 starters that are hitting the open market, and you got quarterback dilemmas, and you haven't extended Ryan Kelly yet. I think that's COVID-related, in my opinion. So, boy, it's gonna impact some things for sure. It's just how much are you doing that? I don't have a great read. On it. You're going to have to bring guys back on shorter deals. You might have to cut some of your veterans that you've given or restructure some money. You might have to go up to Phil Rivers and say, here, 1 year, $10 million. That might be blunt. That might not work, but we could be in for a totally different cap situation. We'll worry about that, Randy, down the road, but thank you.
From James, with the talk of possibly reducing the preseason even further, how do you see this affecting the rookies and undrafted class? And is there anything the team can do about it? To give them a shot to make an already deep roster?
Well, it absolutely kills them. Very limited number of padded practices. Period. It seems like we're fully catering to veterans here. Honestly, it does. It seems like the NFLPA has said, all right, we want our veterans to be healthy. We want our frontline guys to be healthy. We don't care much about the rookies and how many chances they will get to make an impact. So it goes back to the guys you trust for me. How big's your practice squad? I think that's what it'll come down to. Who do you trust? That's who's going to make the 53-man roster. How quickly can those rookies earn trust?
From Clayton, congrats on the baby girl.
Thank you, Clayton. Appreciate that.
He and his wife are expecting a little girl in October. His question to you is, how does he still maintain his weekly round of golf with a newborn? I'm looking into a push cart with a baby carrier. How has your golf game been this summer?
Wow, Clayton. If you invent that or if you find that, I will say, though, the whole newborn in 90-degree heat, probably not ideal for 4 or 5 hours, Clayton. I played golf last week in an outing. Also played for my brother's wedding.
Yeah.
That's the key. You got to get these big life events. Oh, your older brother's having his third kid, and it's his birthday in August. We're going to go play, The problem is golf takes forever. If you're playing a foursome, that's 5 hours, folks, when you include travel, driving to the golf course, coming home. You're not staying for a post-round beer anymore.
Nope.
That's the reality. My wife's been great, though, about it. But I have a feeling that I can't imagine the rounds. Because, work's starting to pick up more for me. More obligations for Colts. Pacers are playing on the weekends. And, if you're trying to sneak in the late evening round, the Pacers are playing games at 6 o'clock in Orlando. It's just, I've gotten enough golf in this year, which it takes a lot for me to admit that, Clayton.
For Matt, do you think the signing of Rhodes over to Sear is to help teach young secondary how to be great? Rhodes has an All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors, while Desir does not. A case of you learn better from a teacher with more accolades.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to our earlier question about the whole Mike Mitchell debate. That sounds good. It does, but I'm kind of more in the camp of Xavier Rhodes. You go get right. You figure you out first, and then you can do your tutelage and do your teaching. more so do it with your actions. Let's go there first with the whole Xavier Rhodes thing.
So Pittman and his girlfriend have a fun YouTube channel. Which other Colts player would have a fun/entertaining YouTube channel but does not? That's from our friend Grant.
Dude, they got a huge YouTube channel.
Yeah, they do.
Huge. I think Leonard would be good. You know, he's such a homebody when he gets on that farm down there in South Carolina. Nyheim Hines, I think, has a great personality. Who else? You know, a guy that I always thought was pretty funny back in his college days, or even has a good personality when I hear him on the radio, is Sheldon Day.
Yeah.
Kind of a big teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
Might be fun to, him kind of do that around the Indy area. Those are the ones that stand out to me.
From Cody, who will be more fantasy relevant, Taylor or Pittman?
Oh, gosh. That's tough. You know, you're an injury away from Marlon Mack, from Jonathan Taylor being, a top 5 running back in the league, fantasy-wise?
Yeah.
I mean, because if he's not splitting carries.
Right.
And if he's the bell cow behind that O-line.
Yeah.
Whatever Marlon Mack was fantasy-wise last year, that's Jonathan Taylor. So I would lean towards, Taylor having the higher ceiling, I guess, because if Hilton gets hurt, you could still spread the ball around. Do I think Pittman would absorb more of it? Yes, but still, I mean, when Hilton went down last year, it was a crapshoot trying to predict who was catching balls for the Colts. You really need the touchdowns from Michael Pittman. That's the big thing you need from him. But Cody, just all goes back to the positions that you've drafted. I'm such a okay, I'm at round 4. What have I done in the early round? I'm not a take best player available. Yeah, that sounds good. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Like I said, I've never won a fantasy draft. Or certainly never won a fantasy season. So, yeah.
From Dick, if you make 5 Colts players available for the expansion draft using the rules in place when Houston joined, which 5 would you choose?
Oh, wow. I've never thought about this. Oh, man. Get my good 8:55 a.m. stretch in there. Okay. So I had to look this up. Houston expansion draft, Chris. The rules were you could only have one 30-year-old of your 5 players.
Okay.
And you couldn't have any unrestricted free agents. So that really lessens
Yeah, it does.
the Colts pool of candidates. They just don't have a lot of under 30-year-olds that are signed for 2 to 3 years that you want to get rid of. I'd probably throw your linebackers on here of Matthew Adams, Zaire Franklin. I'd probably throw Jordan Wilkins. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to give up some. People will literally be like, "How dare could you say that name?" Go look at the roster. Who are you giving up?
Yeah.
Mark Glowinski? Jack Doyle? I know it sounds crazy, but again, we're talking guys hovering around 30 that are 2 to 3 years, and if you're saving $7 million, and then all of a sudden you go sign a $7 million tight end, I don't know. I mean, again, who are the guys signed for multiple years that you are giving up?
Yeah.
Certainly not Costanzo, certainly not Nelson, certainly not Kelly, not Braden Smith, not Buckner, and Leonard, and boy, yeah, it's just Kenny Moore, no. Marvell Tell, no. Julian Blackman, Kari Willis, no. George Odom, Dick, I'd just be glad there's not an expansion team coming.
From Michelle, unpopular opinion, if Adam has or can complete rehab process from his injury, will the Colts allow him to compete for his job? Yes, I know it's a long shot. I just want to know if he has anything left.
Michelle, appreciate the question, but no. I don't see the point. And I think the Colts have finally come around to that. The tone of my voice is a little bit lighter. It's just we continue to get these questions, and my answer will continue to be the same. You have 2 young, somewhat intriguing kicking options.
Yep.
Why delay the inevitable? Why? We watched golf this weekend. Chris said he watched golf this weekend. Tiger wakes up Friday morning. The back hurts a little bit. He shoots 76. It's just these guys at that age, you just worry. Sorry, Michelle.
For Mike, if the season ends up getting canceled at any point or in total, does this affect the Colts wanting to bring Rivers back next year to keep familiarity, or does Ballard see this as a time to start fresh with a young free agent quarterback, Eason, or a Jim rookie QB?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird, good question. I assume Rivers will still want to play, but I will stand by what I've said all along. It doesn't matter when. Whenever you find that quarterback, you take him.
Yep.
Point blank period. I don't care when it is. Whenever you find it, you exhaust every resource to go get that guy. So that's how it is. It would not stunt Rivers coming back, would not stunt whatsoever my eagerness, need to go find the next franchise quarterback.
The fake XFL is a big autographed jersey collector, and he is trying to decide between Pittman or Taylor. Which one, in your opinion, will have the greatest chance of increasing their respective jersey value through their career?
Wow, what a question. I guess it kind of goes back to the earlier one. I think running backs in general have the immediate star power to them. They have a little bit more flash, a little more pizzazz. But if you're talking longevity, Michael Pittman's probably the one that you expect to play 5 to 10 years, 10-ish years, I should say. So, yeah, that's what I would think. Again, it might take a little bit longer for Pittman to get to be that star, but that's the one you can bank on for longer.
From Jake, what are the chances Eason plays a game this year due to positive COVID testing by Rivers and Brissett?
Well, this goes back to what I said a month ago. If I'm the crazy SEC coach, I'm hoping Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett get COVID, and again, I know that sounds awful, and I shouldn't say that. That wasn't politically correct, but if I can guarantee that they're going to come healthy out of it, sure. Chance, boy, it's a lot higher than I thought it'd be. I mean, when you put it like that, just Rivers and Brissett, I don't know, 20%? 10%? I mean, Chad Kelly was a snap away from playing last year.
Yeah.
And if Rivers gets hurt, Jacob Eason will be a snap away from playing. Like, that's how it'll be. So, I don't know. They're two very durable guys. Jake, it's a great question.
NFL waiting room, tacos, burrito, or burrito bowl? Very important question for the podcast.
Burritos. I like bread. I want bread in me. I do. And I like bread, you kind of dip it in the burrito-ish sauce that's kind of falling out. If I got some crumbs on the plate, I can get a little piece of the old soft shell around there. Yeah. You?
I guess it depends on where I'm getting it from, but I'm normally a bowl guy. Because I typically, down here across the street from the station, we got Chipotle and Qdoba.
Yeah, right there.
And I typically get a bowl.
Yeah, I know a lot of people would say bowl, but I'm not very healthy, so I'll go burrito.
PV, Colts go 8-8 this season, and Rivers isn't what we expected. Would you sign Dak for $114 million over 3 years, $38 per year, fully guaranteed?
And we had a ton of Dak questions.
Yeah.
So all your Dak questions, this is it right here. What are the odds? Give those to me, Chris. That people have been talking about Dak to the Colts or something.
The odds?
Yeah. What did you say? Like the Bears or Vikings?
I think the Bears were 6-1 and the Colts were 7-1.
And this is 2021. All of a sudden, this chatter started. Dak doesn't get the extension from Dallas. Where is he going to be in 2021? All of a sudden, the Colts are up there. These are my thoughts. I like Dak. Think he's a nice quarterback. Do I think he's a top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league? No. Do I think he'll ever get there? No. I think he's Dalton. I think he's Kirk Cousins. Solid. Get you to the first round of the playoffs. Don't know if I trust him past that. So, is he better than what you currently have? Probably. But am I giving him the type of money, even this? He's saying 3 years, which I don't think Dak would take that, to be honest with you. No, I am not. I am not, because you're going to be in a much tougher cap situation moving forward. And I'm a firm believer in this. The next quarterback that becomes your starter needs to be on the rookie contract. I think that's the best thing to do long term. I think it's the best thing to do from a financial standpoint as well. Think about all these teams with those rookie contract quarterbacks that have made a Super Bowl or won it.
Yeah.
Mahomes in Kansas City, Goff in the Rams, Wentz in Philly, Russell Wilson in Seattle back a handful of years ago when he was still on that rookie deal. Even Brady in New England, very cap-friendly deal. So, again, I think Dak is a fine quarterback, but no, unless I'm getting a Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers type guy, I'm not committing that absurd amount of money because I don't think the return will warrant you what you want. You have to try and hit the home run. I know it's not hard. I know it's not easy at all, but you got to try and do it.
From Mitch, in a strange hypothetical, the Colts have to change their name and logo like Washington is. What name do you like?
Dude, I'm so bad at this stuff. Like coming up with creative team nicknames. Like I've heard some of the Washington ones. None of them sound good to me. None of them. If I were a team, I would do this. I'd announce on Twitter we're changing our nickname. I'd just scroll through the mentions, find the 4 that I think looks the best, put them in a poll, let fans vote, and just to keep people happy.
That's fair.
I mean, Indianapolis Racers, the hockey team, the Circle City, what? I got nothing, dude. You?
No, it's funny as you said the Racers because that's immediately where my mind went. Besides that, I don't really know.
Colts sound good. So I guess unless people get, Broncos becomes an endangered species or something. Yeah. I don't know, Mitch.
From O'Shea, will Darius Leonard be the highest paid linebacker when his rookie deal is up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, unless you throw Khalil Mack in the linebacker category. But no, if you talk off-ball linebackers, yeah.
Do you think Marvell Tell III will play over or under 50% of the defensive snaps this year? Richard loved his growth over the course of last season.
Yeah, so did the Colts, Richard. Unless injuries occur, I have to think it's below 50%. And this will be the big reason. What do the Colts do with their dime package? Because we all know, base defense, 2 corners, 2 safeties. Nickel, your third corner comes on the field. Dime, the Colts like to bring a third safety onto the field, not a 4th corner. That's where your playing time comes from. So, is your dime George Odom? They liked that last year.
Mm-hmm.
Is your dime Julian Blackmon when he gets healthy? Or is your dime Marvell Tell? Or does Marvell Tell push Xavier Rhodes or Rock Ya-Sin? So, I just, there's no way your 4th corner last year played more than 25% of the snaps. So, I can't. 50 is very high unless injuries occur.
From Laura, odds this season actually happens.
Pure, Vegas odds. This season happens. Does happens mean 16 games in Super Bowl?
I don't know.
Sure.
Like you said, they're going to try everything they can to make sure it does.
I mean, if you're going odds this season actually happens, 16 games and Super Bowl, I'd say 10%. Maybe 20. Purely Vegas odds.
Mm-hmm.
NBA, you probably put it 50-50 right now, which is extremely high. I mean, No one's tested positive in that bubble. You've built the bubble. Now it's, don't let Instagram model XXX come into the bubble. It's just one more thing on this. Well, I guess we can treat this as our one COVID question of the week. There's no way the NFL could have done a bubble. It's impossible.
Mm-mm.
So what you're doing is you are trying to say 23, 24, 25-year-old, single, maybe not single males, behave. Behave when you go home. We've seen plenty of DMs from Colts players to other people. Them behaving is a big if.
Yep.
It's a big if. I will leave it at that. And you know what? Players are going to have to, and teams are going to have to realize things are not unfair. Things are unfair this year. The level playing field the NFL prides itself on and the parity, which I love, that's kind of thrown out the window. You're going to have weird things. Fire's going to hit teams harder than it hits other teams. You're going to have fans in stands, maybe some places and not in others. And, what do you do with kind of false positive tests? And, are you testing, daily during the season, and the whole contact tracing and all that stuff. It's I know right now the Colts in their locker room, they have kind of plexiglass dividers in between each locker. That's a step in the right. Laura, it's going to be weird. It's going to be odd. It's going to be who knows, but it goes back to Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner's quote. If you want team sports, you're going to have to live with the virus.
Yep.
And let's give credit right now to the PGA Tour and to IndyCar and to NASCAR and to UFC. They're testing a whole lot of people, and they're making it happen. And they're moving city to city, and they're making it happen.
Right.
Tucker Barnhart was on with JMV yesterday, said it well. Guys, can we not go to a bar for 2 months? Some people say no, some people say yes, but that's reality. Because if it starts infiltrating in your locker room, it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult. Man, I want sports.
Don't we all?
Gosh.
From Connor, what's with everybody not seeing how much Walker helps this team and not wanting to extend him? He's put up great stats.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even think it's a stats thing with Walker. I think it's more of an intangibles thing. I just think he means a lot. But I keep on coming back to this, Connor. If the Colts are obsessed with Bobby Okereke, and they are, and they believe he's a Pro Bowler, do you just let him sit there and not play a whole lot? And these are the tough decisions that NFL teams should have to make. This is why, and for those of you that listen when I hosted for Dan on Friday, and I got into the whole, Ballard era versus Grigson era debate. These type of arguments we never really had, Chris.
Yeah.
Year 4 into the Grigson debate. They were still winning, and they won without luck. That's what they did really well. They were 6-4 without luck. But you never had the 2 of my own draft picks I'm debating who I should move forward with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, did Grigson hit on 2 draft picks after 2012? Probably not. You have this debate with Ballard, and that's what makes you feel better about the foundation moving forward. I like Anthony Walker a lot, but I don't want Pro Bowl talent to rot away.
From Josh, do you believe the Colts have a leg up on other teams based on how well they understand each other already? He would hate to be a fan of a team with a new head coach and scheme during the pandemic.
Yeah, Joshua, it is a good point. I don't know if I'd use the phrase understand each other, but I would say just understand the system would be where I would go with. And I come back to what I've said all along. They have character and they have self-motivation. And that might be 80% of the battle in this 2020 season. Goes back to what I just said a few questions ago. Can you resist the urge?
Mm-hmm.
Can you resist the urge? A lot of temptations out there. I mean, we all have done it too. We all have looked at it and say, should I go to this route? Should I go but we aren't risking 52 other guys in that locker room.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Which Colt rookie besides the second rounders Pittman and Taylor has the best chance to surprise fans and make an impact in 2020? That's from Lucas.
Lucas, that's a great question, man. I don't have a good answer for you. Danny Pentner, if an injury happens. Jordan Glasgow on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm not expecting a lot of rookie impact. I'm expecting major opportunity for Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. Outside of that, Julian Blackmon's going to be on the mend, right?
Yeah.
And how is Julian Blackmon ACL-wise with this pandemic? Vinatieri seemingly has hurt his rehab. What has it done to a guy like Blackmon? So, yeah, I'm not expecting much. Maybe Blackmon in the back half of the season, but I know this is a popular answer we get this time of year, but don't hold your breath, Lucas.
From Zach, let's say the Colts allow Marlon Mack to sign elsewhere. How much will they regret not re-signing him if Jonathan Taylor's fumbling issues don't get better or worsen from college?
Boy, Zach, this is a tough question. Some of the Jonathan Taylor truthers don't want to face this reality, but we've talked about it on the podcast. His fumbling numbers, touch per fumble, is concerning. Now, the Colts did what last year? I think it was one fumble and 500 touches for their running backs. That might be a little high, but it was something absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's something to keep an eye on. If Taylor puts it on the same rate They did at Wisconsin this rookie season. You probably have to look long and hard at it. Like, nothing pisses off. There are a lot of things that piss off NFL football fans. Running backs fumbling is very high on that list. So I don't know if it's just black and white, though. Like, how much will they not regret re-signing Mack? Like, again, Marlon Mack's going to have his own decision.
Yeah, that's true.
He can go elsewhere. Like, free agency is free agency. It goes back to our, and we will record a Victor Oladipo podcast. We will record a Pacers podcast on Friday with a lot of Victor Oladipo chatter. And the reality of the situation is this, Chris. Victor's never been a free agent in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's enticing to a lot of people.
It is.
So, got to keep that in mind too, Zach.
From Richard, obviously training camp is going to be very different this year with everything, but other than the obvious matchup of Big Q against Buckner, which matchups are you most intrigued by? Personally, for him, he thinks Rock Yassin and Pittman could be fun to watch.
Good. Very good. I like that. Xavier Rhodes versus Hilton. You know, Leonard versus running backs. I always love, like, watching Darius Leonard move in space. Kenny Moore versus Michael Pittman, you know, kind of the 7-inch, that might be too much. 6-inch height difference, but it's just a scrapper and Kenny Moore getting involved in there and you know, the 100-sized Kenny Moore Ducks or whatever the hell the question was earlier. Costanzo versus Ture. There's a ton.
Yeah.
A ton that I love, and hopefully we will get a chance. Again, might not be late July like we usually do, but hopefully somewhat early into August.
From Tanner, I know you talked about keeping an extra player at each position due to COVID, but could you see a situation where we somehow get to keep both McLaughlin and Blankenship, or do you see one of them getting picked up by another team?
Tanner, I think better chance that Vontae Davis in the Ring of Honor than Blankenship and McLaughlin both being on your 53-man roster. I guess he didn't I should be fair here. Maybe he didn't clarify 53-man roster, maybe practice squad as well. But no, I think in a COVID aspect offseason, some might say, well, it's important to have another kicker. I tend to think you just look at that kicker and you say, don't F this up. Just don't get sick. Everyone else on the team, I need an extra corner. I need an extra wide out. It's just, and like, what is kind of the need for two? Is this purely a COVID? I guess it is. Purely a COVID-related question? Like, to me, Chase McLaughlin and Blankenship, they'd have a good chance to get picked up. So, I don't see that happening.
With that
53-man roster spots are just way too precious.
Yeah.
Way too precious.
Completely agree.
You can't do that.
With adding Roosevelt Nix and Trey Burton, if healthy, Mitchell thinks people are sleeping on the impact those two can make, especially with adding Taylor at running back. He thinks Nix is going to be deadly for the Colts.
Yeah, as much as I love fullbacks, I don't know if I'd call Nix deadly. I actually think Trey Burton has the higher ceiling. Versatile piece, helps you out on pass downs and run down. You know, Nix is he's a one-trick pony. You know when he comes in the game, you know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of tipping your hand a little bit. I think I like Burton with the higher ceiling.
What should our iconic go-to big play / TD song at Lucas Oil Stadium be for the Colts this season? Gary's going to throw Head Sprung by LL Cool J for his nominee. Not to be played to death, but a good beat and not typically Indiana.
Yeah, Gary, that ain't happening, man. As much as I want to, you know, if you've ever been to a Colts football game, there is 0% chance you're getting Head Sprung by LL Cool J after touchdowns. I kind of like Bang on These Drums.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You got anything?
That's classic. Honestly, I didn't. When I read it, I was like, you know what? I've never thought about that question before, and I would be terrible at picking the music.
Oh, I'd be bad. I love the Greatest Showman soundtrack.
Okay.
Maybe something off that. I think there's some upbeat stuff there you could go with, Gary. But LL Cool J after a Colts touchdown, don't think we're going to see that.
Wakes Pike I think I said that correctly.
Yeah.
After your last few pods highlighting how free agents and late-round picks may be up a creek this year due to the lack of a preseason, do you think next year's draft there will be free agent / late round bonanza, or because there are so many undrafted free agents / late round picks, more college players will delay their draft to raise their stock?
Well, I'm a little confused on what exactly he's asking here. I mean, I've highlighted, yeah. I'm not 100% sure. I guess looking ahead to next draft, maybe there's not as many underclassmen as normal if the college season is canceled. But I also think you just get some agents in these kids' minds that are like, guys, the age is the most important thing. Like, go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, teams will take a chance on you and develop you. Maybe some guys want to move on as well. So, yeah, I'm not unless you see something in that question that I'm not exactly seeing.
Nope.
I expect less amount of rookies and undrafted free agents to make these rosters.
Yeah. An interesting question from Logan this week. What 5 current Colts players would you select to be part of the Coliseo Storico team for the U.S.? It is an awesome game in Florence, Italy that has been played since 1530. It was shown in a new Netflix series called Home Game. You should check it out.
Okay. Did you have you looked this up or seen this?
I YouTubed.
Same.
Yes. I have no clue what's going on.
I YouTubed it as well. I believe it is some sort of boxing, fighting, and rugby. If they all had a threesome and produced a baby, that's what you would get. Right?
The clips that I was watching, I was like, oh, there's actually a ball. Like,
so it's like what, 50 people to a side, and you have like this big pole and a ball on top of the pole, or what or is it like try to get the pole to stay sturdy?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you described the 3 things that it is. It was a bunch of like MMA, but
oh yeah, and yeah, exactly. This is MMA stuff. This isn't like boxing. Probably isn't the right term now that I say it. It's like MMA, boxing, football, and rugby.
I've never seen anything like it.
So he wants 5 Colts.
Yep.
I will go with Nelson,
Mm-hmm.
Leonard. I think Matthew Adams has got some crazy in him, so I'll go with him. I'll go with EJ Speed.
Okay.
But I really need guys with screws loose.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need you need the Antonio Morrisons.
You have to.
Maybe Grover Stewart. Big.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody? I mean, like, do you want speed? Did you want Hines? Did you want? I don't know.
No, I want the rugged Luke Rhodes. Is he in there?
Yeah, Luke. Luke Rhodes is a linebacker when he first got here. I think people know that, but maybe not. Yeah, he'd be a good one. He looks like a guy he's kind of built like a Greek god. Yeah, those are good. What a question.
Couple more questions from Bradley. With the uncertainty of the coronavirus, if college football is canceled, how will it affect the way teams go about scouting players? Will they have to look at last year's tape or hope the players keep in shape and improve on those skills?
Boy, it's a really good question,
Yeah.
Bradley. Scouting 101 is going to be totally different this year. I'd be curious what a spring season looks like. I think The Athletic did a poll, and let's say they interviewed 20 coaches about a spring season. Half of them expected 2 guys to enter the draft and not play.
Okay.
Or excuse me, 2 guys to sit out because of the draft on each team. So, 2. Now, obviously, Clemson might have 8, but, IU might be like, yeah, we have none. So that's what you have to, I guess, look at. The NFL is not moving that draft. I mean, they want to. They know full well that we'll all watch it if it's on Christmas Day or New Year's Eve. So, it's all about relationships. All about relationships. If you're the area scout and Chris Presley is the Southeast scout, you need to know Florida strength and conditioning coach. You need to know South Carolina State's DB coach. Like, you've got to trust those relationships inside that building, But, I mean, let's be real here. Joe Burrow was going to be a 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick.
Right.
And then he set the world on fire. I mean, it's going to impact some people.
It definitely will.
And you really got to grind out on that sophomore and junior film. Typically, you don't. Sometimes you watch a little bit early. Oftentimes, you focus on just the class at hand. You're going to have to go back and look at that, and then a lot of projecting. But I cannot stress enough how much you're going to have to rely on the relationships and the character Think about
That's
that.
huge for the Colts,
That's huge. Huge.
That's something you can always fall back on.
Yeah.
Jason wants to know if Lucas Oil Stadium has fans in the stands, do you think the roof is open more to combat the transmission of the coronavirus?
Sure. Why not? Yeah, I mean, anything to help. Now, granted, MetLife Stadium's an open-air stadium, and they're not even sniffing fans. I'm pretty sure the field cannot handle precipitation, though. Mm-hmm. So that could be an issue. But, yeah, I mean, as long as, what's it take, 10 minutes to close the roof? Maybe close it if it starts around. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything to help, sure.
From Jordan, what's the start date for training camp?
Yeah, 28th. That is report day as of right now. Rookies report, I think, today or tomorrow. So that's where we're at right now, Jordan.
I couldn't ask for a better birthday present.
28th?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, we got to make sure the pod isn't necessarily that day then. Okay.
No, we're all good.
Good to know.
From Trent, with a couple of players set to reset the market at their position, mentions Nelson and Leonard, can the Colts afford to get into a bidding war with the Cowboys, or do they almost need to look in the draft for the next quarterback?
Similar to what I said earlier, Trent, I'm a big believer in that rookie contract quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Big believer in it. I just don't I like Dak, but I don't like him enough.
Yep.
Don't like him enough.
Again, from our friend Tanner, last week we messed up your question. Besides the obvious Peyton, Reggie, and Vinny, who will be the next Colt to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, not the Ring of Honor?
Yeah, that's on me. That's on me, Tanner. I read Ring of Honor. Hall of Fame's a little different. Obviously, those three will go in. Just to make sure, Reggie, it might take a little time. I know a lot of people are like, Reggie's going in next year. It took Marvin Harrison 3 tries.
Yeah.
Which is ludicrous. But again, that's the reality of it. So Marvin has a much better resume than Reggie. Now, Reggie's got a great postseason history. But
I've never understood why it takes some people so long.
So stupid. It's stupid.
If you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer.
Okay, who will be the next? A lot of people disagree with me on this. I think Robert Mathis over Dwight Freeney. Mathis, NFL record for most strip sacks in the history of the game. I think of pass rusher. I think of impactful plays. And no one has done it better.
Yeah.
No one. So I know some people might say, well, Freeney longevity. He did it on multiple teams. Did he get to a Super Bowl with Arizona? I don't know if that matters, but I think he was on that Super Bowl team. Or maybe Atlanta. I don't know. He was on one of the Super Bowl teams.
Yeah.
But, maybe they both eventually get in, but I don't think it's slam dunks on those guys. I don't. So, yeah, maybe Mathis. That's tough. I mean, I honestly, Mathis, Freeney, and then what? I mean, Quentin Nelson. I mean, seriously, like who? I mean,
yeah.
T.Y. would have to play into like 36 or 37 and go on an absolute tear. T.Y. had put up like some Hall of Fame numbers 4 or 5 years into it, but that's tapered off.
From I'm the Beast, recently celebrating his 23rd birthday, wants to know who is most important player currently on the roster for a team to have success in the next 5 years. Is there a different player on the roster already for the next 5 after that?
The most important player currently on the roster for the team to have success in the next 5 years. Well, most people would say Buckner, I think. I'd say Jacob Eason. If he's going currently on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And if for some reason, you have an injury or two, and the Colts say, all right, Jacob Eason, here you go. And he throws for 330 and 3 touchdowns. Then they're like, okay, let's run this back again the next week. And he throws for 260 and 2 touchdowns. And then they're like, all right, let's run. And all of a sudden, Jacob Eason becomes your franchise quarterback. And he looks like the first-round pick people thought he might have been. Then it's him. I mean, that's the most important position. I'm going with him. I'm going with Jacob Eason.
All right. Last question for this week's podcast is from Romulus. It says, okay, off-season thought experiment.
Oh,
would the NFL and the NFLPA ever consider a 10-day week? My thought is that the NFL could then sell games on Sunday and Wednesday plus Monday and Thursday to TV. The players could also get 10 to 11 days between games. Since I trust your opinion, I was wondering your thoughts. If that could ever happen, at least it would give you something good to talk about on the podcast.
But when he says, since I trust your opinion, that means a lot. Thank you, Romulus. That sounds like something I hope Rosie Bowen says to me one day. Oh boy, this is this like EPL stuff? Don't they play twice a week? Don't they play on like weekends and midweek? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, 10-day break. I mean, now the season's lengthening.
Right. When do you start? I guess you start in
where do you start? Where do you finish? I'm all for safety and stuff, but the NFL, I feel like there is this, and maybe it's a Mark Cuban thing driven, but like, are you saturating it too much? You start playing all these days of the week. Is that too much? Mm-hmm. Think about it. People have lives, high school sports, youth sports. You certainly can't play on Friday night, high school football. So I just, I don't know. Maybe you look at injuries coming off bye weeks, and if there's some like huge drastic difference, maybe that is a reason why you would do this. But I don't know if I can go here. I don't. It's thought provoking, but yeah. You got an opinion on it?
No, I mean, like you said, the oversaturation, or that's.
But I guess that's the only negative with it. I mean, it should help from a safety standpoint.
The safety definitely would increase, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man.
And don't put it past the NFL.
No, I mean trust me, the NFL's thought about all this.
Whatever makes more money.
Yeah. That's a good one, Romulus. Thank you for that.
All right, Kev, that was it.
That was loaded, man. That was long. Probably one of our longer podcasts in a while. We wanted to get everyone's Twitter questions in there. I saw a few people DM me over the night, and I will get to we'll get to those next week. But this will probably be our last podcast, Colts podcast, until training camp starts, and I put "start" in quotes. We'll come with the training camp preview podcast next week, and that will obviously be more centered around whenever they start practice.
Yeah.
So 1075thefan.com has we're starting to get into more training camp centric content, position battles, position of strengths, stuff like that. Check that out up on the site. And for those of you that are Pacer fans, Friday morning, Chris and I are playing in a Pacers pod, so we'll be back then. Should be up by about lunchtime on Friday. Help you out through the old Friday blues and get you something for that drive home. You got anything else, man?
No. Looking forward to Friday.
Yeah, Friday will be fun. He's Chris Presley. I'm Kevin Bowen. Send in your Pacers questions if you got them. DM me, message me, whatnot. You guys know the plan. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you a little bit later on Kevin's Corner.